Hey, Danny Matei here. And yesterday, I had an interesting conversation with a former intern of a clinic that I owned. And the topic was, should I go to physical therapy school or medical school? Now, I'm going to take some time to answer this question, and I'll give you a little backstory real quick. This person I had a chance to catch up with, we grabbed lunch, and he was a patient of mine years ago, was a competitive soccer player. We worked with basically every single one of his family members, including his parents and his sibling. And this is a great kid, somebody I really enjoy keeping up with. And we sat down for lunch. He's finishing up undergrad, and he said, "Hey, what are your thoughts on the difference between going to medical school and PT school?" He pretty much has the opportunity. He could do either one. He has the grades. He's smart. He has many of the prerequisites already done. And we kind of talked about it for a little bit, right? Because ironically, I had a similar debate with myself as someone his age of what I should do. And that was a challenge for me at the time. I didn't know what I wanted to do. In fact, I was leaning pretty heavily towards orthopedic surgery, which is actually what this kid is interested in as well. And potentially, maybe non-surgical route. But I had a very similar, fork in the road for me to decide what I wanted to do. And, I was fortunate to be able to spend time in military hospitals. My dad worked in a military hospital, so I was able to spend some time in these different situations, these different departments, and really see what life looked like for people that were in the surgical world, what life looked like for people that were doing family practice, what life looked like for people that were doing physical therapy. And, the lifestyle side for me was the biggest determining factor. But I want to kind of talk through this a little bit because I had some advice for him. And I think for people that are students, they have to decide. Many of you that are physical therapists, maybe you had a similar sort of debate with yourself or, decision to make of what you wanted to do as far as which school you wanted to go to and what you want to do for a career. And sometimes we look back and maybe we have a little bit of regret in terms of what we chose. I have zero regret for what I did. But I know people that have gone to physical therapy school and then they go back to medical school, right? Like I've seen that. I have some friends that did that as well. And it's a lot of school. That's a hell of a lot of school to make the wrong decision. So I'm glad I could talk to my friend about this and we could hash it out a little bit. But this is basically the way that I looked at it and my advice. And if you're listening to this, I'd love to know what you think as well. You can put that in the comments in YouTube, or if you're listening to this as far as a podcast goes, and you're listening to this on a podcast app, you can always go ahead and message me on Instagram. It's Danny Matei PT is the handle. We'd love to have a conversation and see what you think. But here's the way I looked at it. Okay, so I looked at a couple buckets: lifestyle, income, loans, school duration, and I basically told him, I said, hey, look, if you want to go to school to become a physical therapist, I think it's an incredibly rewarding career. You are not going to make income as you would as an orthopedic surgeon if you just take a job working at a clinic for somebody else. let's just be clear with that, right? You're going to come out of school, you're going to have a decent amount of loans, probably $100,000 to $175,000 in loans, depends on where he goes to school and the options that he has. If you go to medical school, it's going to be more than that. And the road is a lot longer, and I'll kind of talk about what some of those numbers look like. But he's not interested in going to school just to become a PT. He wants to open his own clinic. He's somebody that's been around the clinic that I had, Athletes Potential, for years. Like I said, he was an intern there. And that's something that he is interested in, is building his own business, right? But doing so in a way that it's a mission-driven business. There's a lot of impact on people, and that's what he saw with physical therapy, and that's what he saw working at the clinic that we own. So when I had this conversation with him, here's sort of the direction this went, and I'll go ahead and layer this in for everybody as well. Number one, I told him I think this is a really good way or good direction to focus in regards to the technology changes we're seeing happen in artificial intelligence right now in particular. In fact, he was telling me a story about a couple of his friends that went to school for computer coding, and that's a pretty difficult job to leave with right now. You're going to be a junior coder, and I mean, those are not getting hired nearly as much. It's just a lot of that's being offset by senior coders being able to leverage tech in a more significant way, and they don't necessarily need to make those hires. So I think from an AI installation standpoint, doing something with your hands, doing something in healthcare is a good idea, especially if it involves surgery and or manual work with physical therapy. So directionally, I think he's going the right direction. Now, when we talked about lifestyle, this was the big differentiating factor for me. The lifestyle, the difference that I saw between PT and orthopedic surgeon wasn't even close. Okay, like that was the nail in the coffin for me, because I knew I wanted to have a family one day. I knew that I wanted to have some amount of work-life balance, and I'd already seen what it looked like with family members that were involved in, emergency medicine, working swing schedules, night shifts. And I know what that does to your body and your health. And I know how hard that is on your family. And I didn't want anything to do with that, frankly. So that was the number one determining factor for me. Did the job seem cool? Absolutely. Like, it seems cool. You get to work in some pretty cool environments. There's prestige that comes along with being a surgeon. There's obviously, it's a very useful skill in many ways. But the lifestyle factor is a +1 for PT. It's not even close, right? Like, you can go home. You don't have to work a night shift. There's no such thing as a physical therapy emergency. You can have the weekend off, right? You can disengage in a way that you can't really, as with being a surgeon. It's definitely a tougher lifestyle. When we look at income, it's not even close. Orthopedic surgeons, the average is about $500,000 a year is the income that they're going to make. Some less, some more, depends on if you're in a private practice, if you're more senior, you've been around longer, what type of hospital organization you work for. There's lots of factors, but that's roughly where kind of middle of the career is. For a physical therapist, if you're making $100,000, you're doing pretty good. So it's a vast difference as far as income is concerned. When we look at school, it's a lot shorter for physical therapy, and not necessarily medical school is 1 year longer than a DPT program, but you got to look at everything you have to do after the fact, right? So if you're an orthopedic surgeon, you have 4 years of undergrad, same with PT. You have 4 years of medical school, 3 for PT. Then we're done with that part of it. If you want to be a surgeon, an orthopedic surgeon, you're looking at a 5-year residency after the fact, plus you also, in some cases, will do a 1 to 2 year fellowship. It may even be more depending on what you're specializing in. So you're talking about 13 to 15 years until you're actually not in a residency or fellowship and you're fully functioning as an orthopedic surgeon. This not still going through training. Okay. That's not the case with physical therapy. Even if you did 4 years of undergrad, 3 years of your DPT program, you did a year residency after the fact, you want to do like an orthopedic or sports residency. Okay. Maybe it's 2 years, really draw it out. But even still, it's not quite the same. It's not as intense as being a resident in a hospital learning how to do surgery. Like, it's not even close. So when you look at school, it's much faster. And really the path to becoming a full-on orthopedic surgeon, 13 to 15 years, the 13-year window that I looked at for PT to start your own business and really scale it, it's about what you're looking at. So you got 4 years of undergrad, 3 years of PT school. Then you have 3 years of getting experience. I think this is actually really important for a lot of people that they go into their own clinic too fast. They usually struggle with the competency side, like the ability to feel confident that they can get some of your results, and really like selling themselves. I think that's a challenge when you don't maybe feel that great about your clinical skill set. So 3 years of that before you start a clinic, you start your own clinic, and then you get 3 years to scale. And we've seen people scale businesses, these clinics, pretty fast within 3 years, getting to, $700,000 to $1 million a year top line revenue. By the third year in business for us, net profit for us, this was obviously 2018, 2017. So it's a little different as far as like income is concerned, but we were around $300,000 a year in net profit and income, after 3 years of starting our clinic. So, Yeah, no, it's still not quite where you're at with an orthopedic surgeon, but I know plenty of cash-based clinic owners that make $400,000 to $600,000 a year, depending on how many clinics they have. Some more than that. If they have a number of clinics, or they have a really like a larger clinic, they can definitely be in the seven-figure range in terms of profit, right? And you could do the same thing as a surgeon. There's definitely earning potential to be higher than the average, especially if you go into private practice or something like that. So, I mean, but if you're going to take a chance on yourself as a clinician, as a physical therapist, that's your best bet to have income earning potential similar to an orthopedic surgeon. And what you're swapping out, though, is you're swapping out the lifestyle still. Now, owning a business is no joke, okay? There's definitely some drawbacks to that from a time standpoint, from a challenging schedule standpoint. But there's no night shifts. You're not on call necessarily. You may have stuff that pops up, whatever. Somebody doesn't come in, you got to fill in for them or something to that effect. And there's obviously challenges with running any business. But, for me, when I look back on it, and with this conversation I had with this guy, it was pretty obvious. I think he was like, okay, I don't really want to do this, but it seems like I need to explore this because I could, I could do it. And it seems like maybe it's more of a sure path as far as, your compensation is concerned, and the lifestyle that you can kind of expect. When you go down the path that I did, and that many people that listen to this podcast did, it's hard to say, what you're going to actually do. But when we look at the monetary side of things, and this I think is a really big concern for anybody that's deciding to go to this advanced school, is you're investing in yourself to be able to get a degree, which you don't want to make the wrong investment. You don't want to be, my friend that went to PT school and then went back to medical school, unless you just love school. In that scenario, cool, go for it. But most of us, we don't want to make the wrong decision and spend all this time and money and effort and energy getting the wrong degree and ending up in the wrong career field. So, having the right understanding of what you want to do is very important. But when I went to physical therapy school, I went to physical therapy school in the Army. It's the Army's Baylor physical therapy program. I didn't have any idea what it would look like to own a private practice. I didn't know that was something I could do. I had zero interest in it, frankly. It just wasn't even on my radar. I just wanted to be a physical therapist in the Army. I thought it'd be an awesome job. It was. Had a great time. Would totally do it again. And just by circumstance and in some cases luck, you end up getting connected with people that give you opportunities to do other things, and you evolve and you have a different career trajectory. But if you can go into that sort of understanding where you want to go, like I ended up kind of where I am today, in some ways just by accident, just saying yes to people that I thought were influential in my life and things that I wanted to do. And if you can be a bit more structured with what you're trying to do and ultimately what you want, I think you're going to get there faster even than I did, right? And that does put you in a trajectory where you really can make surgeon money without the surgeon lifestyle. And I think that's the cool part about what we can do as a physical therapist, where we can still have this incredible impact with people from the standpoint of what we help them with, to so much so we would do it for free. We love helping people get over injuries and back to things they like to do. There's nothing better than that, frankly, in my opinion. But we can do that, and we can have a financial stability that is hard to achieve in our profession unless you go into your own thing, because of the income earning potential of being an employee. It's restricted essentially by the revenue you can generate. We don't generate a huge amount of revenue, per provider. If you can get to $300,000 in revenue generated as a provider, that's really good. That's you're pretty damn efficient as a PT. If you're a veterinarian, you're looking at $1 million a year in revenue generated, right? So what they can earn based on a portion of that they're getting paid versus what a PT can earn, it's just not going to be in the same ballpark. The economics of it don't work out. So if you go and you build your own practice, that's when you start to change your economics in terms of what you can actually generate. And not only that, but we're not even talking about the time side of it. We're just we can get to there or to that side of it. But if we can get even close economically to the income levels of a orthopedic surgeon, which is possible. Like I said, I could point to people all across the country that are there. And this is just the difference between being a business owner who happens to be a physical therapist and someone who has a highly specialized skill set as like an orthopedic surgeon. But the lifestyle side of it, completely different, especially as you build a successful business. Other people are involved. You have administrative, staff. You have clinicians. You have maybe a clinical director. You have people on your team that are supporting the business. And it's not just you doing everything. It's not just your efforts based on how many surgeries you do tied to how much you're going to get paid. You decouple from that. And this is what I did not understand whenever I started a business. This is actually the most important thing to understand, that if you're going to go this direction, you are building the infrastructure to decouple from your efforts being rewarded on a per time, per session, per minute, whatever basis. You're still going to do things, but those things can be compounded differently. Because like I might make this video, okay? I make this video, it takes me X amount of time. I'm not getting paid for that time directly, but this might actually create who knows how many clients that we get a chance to work with and help them build businesses because of the effort that I've put into this, and hopefully the ability to educate people on how to run a business effectively and build trust to where you may say, you know what, physical therapy biz seems like reputable people. They're doing solid work, and I need help. They seem like the right people to help me. Cool. Would love to be able to have the opportunity to do that. But this video, it's not I'm getting paid $100 an hour to do this video or something to that effect. This is something that is going to decouple from that exchange. And real wealth is not just monetary. This is really, really important. Real wealth is not just monetary. Because I can tell you, if you look at the World Health Organization and what they look at when they see shift work, it's viewed as a carcinogen, cancer causing. Shift work is cancer causing. That means you're going to fucking die earlier. So if you take a job where you're working shift work, just know that's what's going to happen. Why do they have a differential at night when they pay people more? Because they have to, because people know it's bad for their health and people don't want to do it. We're not nocturnal. We sleep at night. So you have to pay people a lot more money to work the graveyard shift. It's because it's going to literally shorten your life expectancy. It's terrible for our health. We know that. When we go that path, that type of traditional medical surgical path and many other fields within healthcare, it's hard on you. It's hard on your physical health. It's hard on your relationships. It's hard on everything around you to have normalcy. It's super, super difficult. And if you want that, and that is there is something very admirable about people that want to do that. It's fantastic. I have family members that do that. And we need people like them. Like the healthcare system needs more people like them. In fact, they're having a hard time finding people like that because it's such a challenging career lifestyle. But if you don't want that, like I didn't want that, if you wanted to be able to drop your kids off at school and pick them up and go to their games and, not have to miss life along the way, this is a fantastic, fantastic compromise in a way where you can create time freedom. And I didn't always have time freedom. In fact, I had the complete opposite of that for years as we were building our business. My wife and I just, killed ourselves in the process of building our practice up. It's hard. It's not easy. And not everybody's going to be successful either. But if you can get to the other side, now all of a sudden you've created an opportunity where you have just such a unique life, such a rare opportunity to enjoy the time that we have here with the people that we want to spend that with. And that is something that I would never, ever, ever exchange. I would never change that. You couldn't pay me enough to trade that out because I know what it feels like on the other side and I know what it feels like now, and I like it here a lot more. But getting here takes a lot of effort, and you will be time poor for a long time. As you're building a business, you're going to have to make sacrifices, and that's just part of it. But I can tell you, if you want to be a surgeon, go be a surgeon if you want to be a surgeon. If you really want to be a surgeon, go do it. But just understand, you are exchanging some things that might be very important to you. You're swapping those things out in exchange for, very, very demanding, stressful job. And if it's your calling, you got to do it. You got to do it. And you just know that, my family who are in emergency medicine, it's their calling. It's what they do. They don't have a choice. It's the thing they're supposed to do in life. And they know that, right? So like, if that's not you, then don't just go become a surgeon because you think you're going to make more money. Like, that's not necessarily the right path either. So being able to pick the career field that you want, and in this case, many of us, it's physical therapy. Obviously, we chose that, even knowing maybe our income earning potential is far lower. But being able to couple that with a business that creates time and financial freedom for you and your family, creates an asset, creates an asset you can sell. If you're a surgeon, you work for somebody else, you can't sell your job to somebody one day. It's not how it works. If you have a practice that you build, cool, you can do that. That's even harder. Can you imagine going through all that school to go the surgical path? Then you have to learn how to run a business or partner, in some way. Like, that seems even harder to me than what we do, which is obviously like far less intricate. Let's be honest. Helping somebody with back pain is not nearly as intense or intricate as replacing an ACL. So it's far less technically that we have to learn. And we can become really great business owners, and we can help people in a really meaningful way. And these businesses are growing. People are looking for businesses like this. They want someone that can be proactive in their health with them. Like, they want to have the ability to say, yes, I don't want to wait until there's a problem. I want to stay on top of my health. I want to live a high performance, pain-free life for as long as I can. What a great time to have a business like that. I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon. So I think you're in a great spot. This was a super interesting conversation that I had with this buddy of mine. I'm excited to see what he does in the future. He's a sharp guy, and it's fun for me to be able to say, hey, I remember having that same conversation, man, with myself, and expose myself to what it really looked like in these different environments and these different jobs. And I want to make sure that I at least share this with you. And for those of you that have gone through the same thing, maybe you would find the same conversation interesting. And also, just I'll end it with this. I'm very, very thankful for the opportunities that I've had, for the career that I chose, and the life that we eventually have been able to build. And if you are a physical therapist and you wonder, man, am I ever going to be able to put myself in a position where I feel like truly like financially secure, the path for most people to do so, unless you have a spouse that has a really great job and you can do a fantastic job of living well below your means and not moving the goalpost. I mean, that's the key for most people. But if not, and you need to increase what you're making, this is probably the best option you have besides switching careers. And that's an option for some people. But I hope that we keep the best people in the profession. And this is a proven path at this point where you don't necessarily have to be completely in network. It can be a cash clinic, it can be a hybrid clinic, it can be whatever you want, but it's there. It's a growing portion of the field. I'm excited to be a part of it, and I hope that you enjoyed this one as much as I enjoyed having this conversation with my friend. And as always, I appreciate you watching and listening. If you are listening to this on the podcast and you want to see the video version of this, head over to YouTube. You can check us out there. We have all of our clinic tours in there as well, which we have a whole another batch of those that are going to be coming up. We're going to be changing that a little bit and really just sort of highlighting the cool stories of the people that we get to work with. We're excited for that. So if you want to watch those, head over to YouTube. If you want to listen to this, you can listen to this anywhere that you listen to your podcast. I'm a Spotify guy. I don't know about y'all, but iTunes had me for years. Spotify is where it's at for me. So I appreciate you listening. Appreciate you watching. We'll catch you on the next one.